good morning everyone. 1 hour of food for food coming up by right now.
Then, ladies and gentlemen, for the 24th and final time in this season 2024, we go qualifying, and we've headed to Abu Dhabi for the season finale for what is the 16th World Championship Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, which is won from pole on 10 of the previous 15 occasions. So far this season, pole has gone to Max Verstappen 8 times, Lando Norris 7 times, Charles Leclerc 3 times, George Russell 4 times, and Carlos Sainz once. Ferrari the only team to have both drivers on pole, and they start on the back foot this weekend with Charles Leclerc picking up a 10th-place grid penalty and taking an extra battery in his Ferrari car outside of his allocation. And this is the weekend they start 21 points behind McLaren in the Constructors' Championship, hoping to win for the first time since 2008. McLaren hoping to win for the first time since 1998. C5, C4, C3 are the tyres. The leading contenders have all got 4 new sets of the soft compound tyres, apart from Lando Norris, who has got 5. He's saved an extra set of tyres. Will that prove crucial? Last 2 practice sessions, McLaren on top, Norris and Piastri yesterday evening, and Piastri and Norris earlier today. Martin Brundle alongside me. We love qualifying. Can Oscar Piastri get a first Grand Prix pole? Are McLaren the team to beat? Can Ferrari come back at them? Or maybe Lewis Hamilton, George Russell at Mercedes, maybe George Russell making it 3 poles in a row. Who's your money on tonight?
Well, McLaren look like they've got the car nicely set up. Both drivers on form. They look to be the team to beat this evening and indeed tomorrow. But as McLaren found out to their great cost in Qatar, it doesn't always work out that way in the Grand Prix with that 10-second stop-and-go penalty that Lando Norris suffered there for the team. But it does seem as if they've got the high ground. They've got 21 points in their pocket, advantage over Ferrari. Charles Leclerc with a 10-place grid drop, as you mentioned. Both Ferraris were dragging their floors down the racetrack and smoking so hard, they were getting so hot underneath. You can imagine the friction at the speeds they cover around this racetrack. So they'll have to lift them a little bit, which gives away some performance as well. The tyre pressures, the minimum tyre pressure has gone up 1 psi on the front. That'll hurt some that were already front sliding, understeering we call it. So it's about who can catch McLaren. McLaren will want to win this championship if they can with a 1-2. Strictly speaking, all they need to do is follow Ferrari home.
Lewis Hamilton, a 246th and final start for Mercedes, but where will that start be for the man who has been on pole here in Abu Dhabi on 5 previous occasions? We saw the party in Paddock Club, that's the Abu Dhabi Do. On the track, it's car number 61, the Abu Dhabi Doon, who is making his first foray into a Grand Prix qualifying. Take us back a couple of years, Martin Brundle, to your first qualifying session in Formula One. How nervous were you when the lights went green?
Very nervous, but of course we used to have it as an amalgamated session over Friday and Saturday just to confuse things, and I'll never forget standing in a commentary box with the great Murray Walker on a wet Saturday when there was no point in going out because all the times from Friday would have counted, and nobody went on the track for about 45 minutes. That's quite a big film. It is much more exciting now, as with these 3 stages we have in qualifying, where it doesn't matter who you are, you need to get out there and deliver a lap.
Jack Doohan delivered a little bit more pace today than he showed yesterday. He's been slowly but surely building up to this occasion.
Yes, it looked like he was sort of steady in the first practice, but he was right there when it mattered, and it's a good opportunity for him to get a head start on next year, isn't it, Jack Doohan, in the Alpine.
Certainly is. Nico Hülkenberg and his teammate Kevin Magnussen have been going great guns in practice. This is Nico Hülkenberg's last race for Haas before he goes to Sauber. Kevin Magnussen's last qualifying before he leaves the sport again, and told me last night that he doesn't look like he's going to be coming back on this occasion. Best qualifying of 7th so far this year in Mexico for Kevin, and 6th on a couple of occasions for Nico, but they look lively, those Hasses.
They look incredibly fast. They might spoil some parties this evening after qualifying. Magnussen, of course, going into sports car racing, the World Endurance Championship with BMW, so he's definitely leaving Formula One, and what a great job he's done while he's been here. And Ted is ready to go down there in the pit lane.
I love qualifying, Martin, don't you? Especially
yes.
when, and Crofty, especially when in these days in the races, they're going round like 5 or 6 seconds off the pace. You're thinking, well, how fast could you go? Well, I tell you how fast you could go, what you do in qualifying, and that's why I love it. So that's why we got one more in 2024 to find out. Let me update you on the Gasly situation. So that really was, I mean, I think the engineer was actually David Sanchez from Alpine who told me, oh, don't worry, everything's fine. It really wasn't, Crofty. They're really only just now finishing the Gasly setup change, and Pierre's been sort of pacing around the front of the garage thinking, when is it ready? I think you can see them on screen now.
Bit
or
of
is that
tape being applied?
No, that's the left-hand side as you look at it. Yeah. So that's just finished. So yeah, some really late work going out on the Alpine of Pierre Gasly. You already mentioned the 10th place grid penalty for Leclerc. Shall we mention the Williams 5 places as well, Crofty? Yeah, it's 5 places each for Alex Albon and from Franco Colapinto, wherever they qualify. So that might inform what they do in this Q1 session. And just to scrub some tyres, we have both Aston Martins going out on a set of hard tyres. So if you see Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso around there, and you think, hello, 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 they're on the white-walled hard tyres. I didn't think they used them for qualifying. Well, they're not. They just go out there scrubbing some tyres.
I think they went too fast when you were stood in the pit lane. They went too speedy past you, because I'm sure that's a red stripe on Lance Stroll's Aston Martin.
Well, it's definitely a white on Fernando, sorry.
Right.
Yeah, it is on Fernando's. You're absolutely right, Ted. They do like to scrub, don't they? Just put take their shiny surface off the tyres. Aston Martin, they do that pretty much every weekend. Some other teams do that from time to time, and there's confirmation of what is really just a trickle round and park it and keep those tyres for tomorrow.
Ted was asking how fast can they go for qualifying this evening. Oscar Piastri's fastest time in FP3, the final practice session, was 1/100th of a second faster than Max Verstappen's pole time of last year. And I know the white line has been brought out a little bit, and that's helping the lap times. But Pirelli, the tyre supplier, saying that the speeds of these cars has massively this season exceeded their expectations.
Yeah, they've eased the exit of a few corners, 2 or 3 corners, but I would expect that. All the money, all the hundreds of millions that have gone into developing with these 10 teams, I'd expect them to be faster a year later, frankly, with similar regulations. I'd be very disappointed if they weren't.
Now this man, Lance Stroll, has scored points in 3 of the last 4 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. It's 125 starts for the Silverstone team this weekend. So take us through the rest of this lap, Martin.
Cascading down the hill towards turn 5, they brake super late there and sweep through. Pick up the throttle, it'll just complain a bit on the exit. And then you keep a little bit left down the back straight because, well, the first of the back straights, because you lose a lane all of a sudden. That's why he's not near the side of the track. Now you see it, he's on line for heavy braking into turns 6 and 7. You've got to be very concise there. Don't get greedy on the way in because it'll hurt you through 7. Way too throttle happy there through the exit. That'll hurt him a little bit all the way down this next straight. That traction issue he had there. And then we're into turn 9 now, which is a parabolic corner, a long 180-degree turn. And now you get to the more technical part of the lap, a really fast right-hander into a heavy stop. And it's a block change there, 90 right, 90 left. The lockup won't have helped him either. 90-degree left. Then the highest G-force corner on the track, believe it or not, this little right-hander. And 1 to go. It tightens through the exit. And your car always gets a little bit on the nose through there. The line comes up quickly. And Lance Stroll, the first to set a time on a 24.366.
155 miles an hour, 7th gear corner, that penultimate corner, which is why it's the highest G-force that we see the drivers exposed to during the course of a 3.28 mile lap here. And slowly but surely, more are making their way out onto the track. You might have seen Lewis Hamilton and George Russell in the Mercedes. They were both running the hard compound tyre too, and once again putting them through a heat cycle before pitting and changing onto the softs, which they will use for qualifying. We've had 5 minutes. They've had enough of sitting in the garages waiting for the conditions to be just right, and they're making their way then through the tunnel, the only pit lane that exits under a track and onto turn 2 via a tunnel.
Yeah, we were always concerned when we first came here, 2009, that if there's a crash in the tunnel, you know, there's no other way of getting on the racetrack.
Yeah.
They would have to red flag the race, but it's never happened.
No, we every year we keep our fingers crossed that it doesn't, and every year it doesn't happen. Sergio Perez, we keep our fingers crossed that Sergio Perez will come good and add to his collection of pole positions in Formula One, which number 3. His last pole being in Miami in 2023, but he hasn't shown the form that brought him pole there or any of his 6 wins of late. And could this be his 90th and final start for the Red Bull team this weekend? He's on the track now. He's a fraction up through the first sector. He is.
And then you just pull gears now. A little beep. Certainly on the Mercedes I drove the other day, a little beep in the air. It's just instinctive to change gear, to be honest. Lights on the steering wheel as well. But this is a very big stop at the end of the straight. And you don't want to hit that orange curb, but you want to be very close to it. And your job is to minimize the angle of the corner as much as you can and maximize the width of the track. You don't take the shortest route down there because you've got to be on the right-hand side for a left-hand corner. This is the parabolic I told you about. Now you've got 2 stonkingly fast right-handers where the car's pulling plenty of load, but immediately in your face is this section at the end of the lap. And the Red Bull looking very obedient there on direction change, I must say. Up against the barrier, 2 corners to go and all to play with. You can still get it horribly wrong in this corner. Sergio Perez has not done that. He stays within track limits, goes over the line with a mid 1:23. That's more like it.
And a 10th off the pole time last year set by this man Max Verstappen. Although Sergio Perez is going to be a little bit disappointed with that last lap because guess what, Martin? He went over the white lines and it's going to be deleted. A turn 1 infringement.
We didn't see that, did we?
Over before it started, sadly, for Sergio.
Again, to quote the great Murray Walker, if he didn't have bad luck at the moment, he'd have no luck at all. So
Lance Stroll stays fastest and Franco Colapinto adds to the time so far, and Alex Albon is next over the line in the low 124s. And just to repeat what Ted was saying, 5-place grid penalty for a new gearbox for both Alex Albon and for Franco Colapinto.
Yeah, and they've thrown so many gearboxes at the wall, haven't they? That unfortunately, it's biting them here. 16
crashes during the course of this season, 16 and counting. And guess what? Franco Colapinto is the next to have a lap time deleted for going too wide at turn 1. Verstappen out of the final corner into the 123s we go. 10 minutes to go, and he's half a second clear of Yuki Tsunoda, who gets to drive that Red Bull car, of course, at the test next week.
And Max was really pushing his luck on the track limits through the final corner, but I think he was fine. I think he was still on the white line.
Oscar Piastri has set a purple first sector at 10th up on anything that we've seen so far. Lando Norris, his teammate, a few hundredths back. Carlos Sainz with the same on the first sector, and he crosses the line to go fastest overall, just by 29 one-thousandths of a second from Max Verstappen. Carlos Sainz in this is 88th and final race for Ferrari, the 9th most starts for the team. Valtteri Bottas next across the line ahead of his teammate Zhou Guanyu, who's been the slowest qualifier at 8 consecutive races before actually getting into Q2 for the last 2 of them. Piastri continues on his way. Lando Norris will cross the line first. George Russell just about to start a flying lap, and here comes Lando Norris.
Magnussen up into P3. He was 3/10 quicker than Norris in the middle part of the lap.
Lando Norris finishes his lap then behind Kevin Magnussen. Not by much, but by enough. I tell you, those Hasses look really racy over a lap. And Oscar Piastri drops back behind Kevin Magnussen as well. What sort of rocket fuel are they putting in the Hasses tonight?
Well, Magnussen, I mean, a lot of people saying, yeah, low fuel in free practice 3, but that's a mighty time from Kevin Magnussen. Look at him, 0.145 off fastest at the moment. And McLaren only coming in 4th and 5th. Why is that, you might ask? I don't know, I might say.
Nico Hülkenberg, 7th fastest with a 1:23.7, just a 10th behind Kevin Magnussen. It's really, really tight. 2/10 separating Verstappen and Hülkenberg as Fernando Alonso goes 8th fastest overall. And memories go back, don't they, to Sao Paulo all those years ago when Kevin Magnussen managed to get pole for the Haas team, their one and only pole in Formula One. Could it happen tonight in his last race in this sport? Long way to go yet. George Russell crosses the line, 8th fastest. Track could be ramping up a bit. Lance Stroll has picked up a heap of time in the middle sector. Hamilton only 9th fastest as he crosses the line. And Stroll with a 35.9, a couple of tenths quicker than anyone else through that middle part of the lap. We saw him locking up, bit of a scruffy first lap for Lance Stroll, and that's top 8 for him as he crosses the line.
Best lap of the weekend for Aston Martin. So these cooler temperatures then, cooler track, cooler ambient temperatures have clearly changed the balance of the cars because it's...
Yeah, we lost that lap time for track limits at turn 1.
Is it clear, mate?
We believe it's clear.
Have a look, because I don't think so.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him asking for that to be checked out, but...
That's clear.
There was a tiny moment, wasn't it, where he had neither rear nor front wheel on the track.
And that's one of the many new static cameras that have been put in to this track just for these moments to try and see who stayed in the line and who stayed out of it. That was less tight from Franco Colapinto.
Yeah, I can understand why Sergio, sitting deep inside the cockpit of that Red Bull, why he would like... Because he can't see. He can't see anything like as well as that camera can.
What it's done, though, is it's put Sergio Perez down in the bottom 2 with just over 6 minutes to go. Franco Colapinto is the same. Alex Albon, Liam Lawson and Jack Doohan also in that bottom 5. And yeah, it might be tight in the midfield part, but it's also equally tight down at the bottom 2. I think there's quite a scrap here between, at the moment, Fernando Alonso in 11th and Alex Albon in 18th. Less than 2/10 of a second between them.
Yeah, Perez and Colapinto without a time, as you say, and yeah, they'll be obviously now they're into Parc Ferme conditions. As soon as they roll out past the end of the pit lane, all they can change, they can't reduce the tyre pressures anymore. They change the front wing, and then they've got a number of tools on the steering wheel to change the differential settings and the brake bias, and to help them sort of tune the turn in, or they can tune the car in, through and out of a corner.
Ted Kravitz, where have you wandered to?
Well, I'm still specifically between the Alpine and Williams garages, but it's on Williams that I've got a bit of a preview to Franco Colapinto's lap, and very much still in the shop window, isn't he, the Argentine driver? Wowed everybody with his speed early on in the season, notwithstanding the crashes, but has got one more chance on this run coming up to get into Q2 and put himself back in the driver market. For him to do that, Crofty, he's going to need at least a 1 minute 23.7, 1 minute 23.8, and that means, well, if you're Alex Albon's on a 24.1 in the same car, he's got to find 3 or 4 tenths of a second, which doesn't sound very much, but in Formula One, it is quite a lot. So, yeah, vamos, Franco, let's see what he can do.
It's been so tight, Martin, and even Kevin Magnussen coming out for another run, he's third fastest. Just a little avoidance there from Sergio Perez. Does that kind of throw the team's plans into chaos a little bit, and that they'd hope the leading teams just to sail through on one set of tyres in this session? Yeah,
I think the two Haas cars are going to destabilise, you're right, the top 4 teams, because they're not expecting somebody in amongst them when push comes to shove at raw speed around here. And of course, you've got to get the lap in as well. It's a little bit easier in Q1. You're going to drop 5 out. I'm always going to call him Mick, aren't I? Jack Doohan, just a 10th behind Pierre Gasly, much more experienced driver, of course. So it's a solid lap time for Doohan, but he's only 16th at the moment and currently out of qualifying, should it stay like that.
And driving the car that was the slowest car at the Qatar Grand Prix. Pierre Gasly winning that battle against Esteban Ocon in qualifying this season, 12-11. It's the only one that was going to go down to the wire, but Esteban sadly is not here. Guess what? Finally, some good news for Sergio Perez, ladies and gentlemen, because they've had a re-look at that lap time deletion, and it's been reinstated.
This is unbelievable, this.
But the trouble is for Perez, he's had to go out again.
Yeah.
He's gone out and wasted
lost the sights at turn 6, 7.
An outlap on those tyres, because 23.5 you'd normally
we
park
lost that
it, I would
for
say.
track limits at turn 1.
Well,
Is it clear, mate?
23.5 is safe by
Have a
half
look,
a
because
second.
So they
I don't
obviously
think so.
found a moment when there was a bit of front tyre contact or a bit of rear tyre contact. It was so close for Perez, wasn't it? But as
To the naked eye, it looks like all 4 wheels had gone off.
it was a moment, and you needed to freeze frame that to find the moment.
That is the moment where Valtteri Bottas came out. He had to stop, and then that caused the concertina effect for Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson behind him, and then they all started queuing, and that's what rather irked Nico Hülkenberg in the Haas. Right, are we going to freeze frame this then? Did he have one bit of tyre on the line?
I think his front tyre came on as his rear tyre went off. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with him
Well, I'm happy
getting that
because I don't
back.
want to see any lap times get deleted.
And it's much easier through the last corner. You'll see the sort of dogleg step in the white line now, or in the last corner. We'll see a lot less problems of track limits in the last corner.
So the good news for Sergio Perez, then he's third fastest at the moment. The bad news is it's so tight, he might just have to go for another lap again. And we've got 1 minute and 40 seconds to go here, and everyone is out on the track, bar Alex Albon and Franco Colapinto. They've done their second runs. Albon 11th fastest, Colapinto 13th fastest. Will that be enough to get them through? The projection was a 1:23.7 as your knockout time. If that comes true, then that won't be enough for either of them. Who's improving? Setting personal best sectors throughout their laps. Pretty much everyone. Liam Lawson is, Joe Guan Yu is, Valtteri Bottas is, Yuki Tsunoda is, as they try and get out of the bottom 5. And if you haven't been with us all season, A, where have you been? You missed an absolute thriller. But B, we're looking to eliminate the bottom 5 here. It's not all about the fastest at this stage. Joe Guan Yu pops up into 12th fastest with a time of a 1:23.8 above Colapinto and behind Alex Albon. Fastest first sector goes to Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc. Bottas goes quickest overall. Valtteri Bottas, who has been on pole here in 2017, and his former teammate, Mercedes at the time, is down to 14th now.
Yeah, it will be tight because the track is ramping up massively. There's been a Formula 2 race before this, and for whatever reason, the track is now starting to come to the Formula 1 cars. Valtteri Bottas fastest, Tsunoda into P11. And that is why Hamilton's been given the, you've got to get this one done.
It's also going to be tight to get to the line in time, I would have thought. We've got 10 seconds to go, and they're all queuing up around the final corner. And the line comes at you fairly quickly. Hamilton makes it with 5 seconds to go to start his lap as Gasly crosses the line and goes 4th fastest overall, ahead of Sergio Perez, who didn't find any improvement on that second lap. Charles Leclerc now goes fastest of all, ahead of Valtteri Bottas, who you would imagine is safely through to the next part of qualifying. It's all getting very tense in the garages here. Alex Albon is the car at risk. Hamilton is in that bottom 5. George Russell is right on the cusp of it in the other Mercedes, and this is the man who's been on pole for the last 2 races.
Yeah, left drivers that really struggling to get over on that queue in the pit lane. Charles Leclerc, though, first to take the checkered flag, fastest at the moment.
Looking at some first set, Lando Norris has pitted. He hasn't improved, 9th fastest overall. Nico Hülkenberg, good first sector from him. George Russell putting a good first sector, but the middle sector is nothing to write home about. Piastri pits, he's in 8th place at the moment. We're not seeing a lot of green sectors in that bottom 5, although Lewis Hamilton just popped up with a 36.0, which is his best middle sector so far. Verstappen goes 4th fastest. We're watching George Russell, who at the moment is 14th fastest. Albon drops into the bottom 5. Alonso's the car at risk. Russell now goes 9th fastest. Can Lewis Hamilton, in his last qualifying for Mercedes, knock out his former McLaren teammate Fernando Alonso in qualifying? Hamilton crosses the line, and it is P18 only. He couldn't find the pace, and sadly for the man who has had 5 pole positions in the past here in Abu Dhabi, his final start for Mercedes is going to bring him his lowest grid spot in any Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
Ouch. Where did that pace go from? He looked really fast through the free practice session.
Messed that up big time, guys.
I would imagine the preparation, getting to the line before the checkered flag was hurried and not ideal. Let's try and interpret that message.
The swear word was not bollard, because that's what stuck underneath the front of his car. He's obviously run wide and picked up... I'm trying to think where there's a bollard that's anywhere near the racing line, but wherever it was, he's found it.
Nico Hülkenberg, for driving too slowly, has been noted by race control. The bollard now goes. 6 and 7, the chicane. Is there a bollard there?
There's one. Well, there's one still there. So yeah, down at.
That was bad, man. Jesus.
Yeah, Lewis, that was bad.
Well, an agreement from Toto Wolff, which is not what he or Lewis Hamilton wanted for this one last dance here for Mercedes. And we're going to just... This is Kevin Magnussen almost stopping on the track. That's where he's knocked a bollard onto the track, and Lewis would have then picked up that bollard as he came through. That's so unlucky.
So K-Mag trying to get out of the way, flicks a bollard in the way, and that would have then destroyed the aerodynamics on Lewis's car. And that explains then why he had no pace.
We might hear a bit more about that. Either way, it won't be enough to save Lewis Hamilton. He is out of qualifying. Jack Doohan in that Alpine car, slowest for the second weekend running on his qualifying debut. Colapinto, Joe and Albon also out.
a look at Hamilton. So basically, he has Magnussen in front of him from very early on in the lap. This is the way in towards turn 9. So already he's feeling the dirty air there from the car in front, and he'll be losing grip all the way through, especially high-speed corners like that, let alone the bollard that gets kicked up by his fellow friend at the end, who tries to get out of his way, but actually no, this is that's obviously that's it wasn't Magnussen, it was somebody else in front of him, but that's Magnussen here, darting to the inside, kicking the bollard up, and it goes flying across the circuit. There's absolutely nothing that Lewis could have done there. So he's had someone else in front of him dishing up a whole load of turbulence, and then he's got a bollard that he picks up, and that gets stuck under the car for good measure. So the lap's completely gone. One thing I'm just going to pick up actually a little bit further behind. So this green display on his steering wheel just here, that's telling him that he's ahead on his reference time. So he's still up on this part of the lap, and then it obviously all goes away at the end. So poor old Lewis, it wasn't supposed to end like that, but hey, that's motor racing, and tomorrow is another day, of course, and that's where you pick up the points and the trophies. Then finally, just going to end here with Perez. I just want to take another look at this one because, yeah, it looked so tight, didn't it? And the beauty of this is that we can obviously pause it and go frame by frame.
Otherwise I've got my lap deleted.
George Russell explaining why he went off the track, and his teammate Lewis Hamilton wandering back to do some media interviews. He's out of qualifying. As we welcome our viewers to Sky Sports main events, we're just waiting for the start of the second part of qualifying. We've had a slight delay while the race officials put a bollard back into its place that Kevin Magnussen, in his bid to get out of the way of other cars, knocked off its perch onto the track. Lewis Hamilton ran it over, and sadly for Lewis Hamilton, it cost him in the final sector, and he is out of this qualifying session in what is his last race then for Mercedes. He ends his Mercedes career with 3 Q1 knockouts in the space of 6 races. Jack Doohan and Franco Colapinto and Joe Guanyu and Alex Albon join Lewis Hamilton. Alex Albon, 3 consecutive Q1 eliminations for him for the first time since 2022. That was, Martin Brundle, rather a dramatic end to the first session.
Yeah, very unfortunate there for Lewis Hamilton, as you say. Liam Lawson did get through. He was blocked by George Russell, who already stating his case, in case the stewards want to have a look at it, of I went as wide as I could without losing, without breaching my own track limits and losing my lap as well. And quite rightly, we heard Sergio Perez like, yeah, if they hadn't taken that time away, then I wouldn't have gone out on another new set of tyres. And I think they also look at the bulge of the sidewall. It's like the shadow of the tyre as much as the tread of the tyre. And they go.
Yes, good morning, everyone.
gave it back to him because they could obviously see the sidewall of the tyre still effectively contracted a bit tenuous.
Yeah, a bit like that they have in the back. Ted Kravitz, let's head down to you.
Yeah, but presumably the Red Bull, the lap got reinstated because Red Bull did appeal to the FIA to have another look. So Sergio was saying, why didn't you check? And I think they did, to be fair to Checo's engineers. So because there's Saturday wouldn't be Saturday without Max Verstappen going out first in Q2, and he goes out again. George Russell just passing me in the Mercedes on a scrubbed set of soft tyres. Verstappen was on a new one. A bit of frustration at Williams. Albon felt that he started his lap too close behind his teammate Franco Colapinto. In the end, neither went out. But yeah, you said, Crompty, that they're putting the bollard back in again, a replacement bollard. Just an idea, maybe if that's going to happen with Magnussen and Hamilton, maybe don't put it back again and save somebody else.
You only really need those bollards there if you're training somebody how to go around a racetrack or you're trying to keep GT cars off the curbs. So you don't really need it there for Formula One, frankly.
I mean, look, it's warning drivers that, you know, you don't want to go off the track, but you'd think the wall about a metre to the left might have been a deterrent enough. So that George Russell, Liam Lawson moment has been looked at by the stewards. No further investigation necessary on that one. And of all the things you've seen in Formula One, Martin, Valtteri Bottas, who only last week lifted himself off the bottom of the championship, going second fastest in the qualifying session, probably not on your bingo list for tonight.
No, we've got Bottas and Magnussen, two drivers currently out of Formula One after tomorrow evening, absolutely flying along beautifully. In that session anyway.
8 1,000ths of a second in Sao Paulo was what cost Bottas a first Q3 appearance since China. Maybe tonight he gets the other side of it. Kevin Magnussen's never reached Q3 here. 8 previous attempts for him. This is the man that's been on pole for each of the last 4 years. So let's see how Max Verstappen is getting on. Car ahead of him, moving away and off the racing line. Carlos Sainz, as Verstappen heads on towards turn 9. Much prefer this corner to how it used to be before we went into the final sector. It's a lovely sequence of flowing corners now.
Yeah, it's amazing how much the driver's head goes down into the cockpit under lateral loads and particularly braking loads as well. So he's got 3 corners to go to the end of the lap, and it's looking like a handy lap indeed for Max Verstappen, isn't it? This last corner is so tricky. It sort of tightens on you through the exit. Such a short run to the line. And we're into the 1:22s now. A 1:22.998. It looks as if Red Bull might have worked their Friday night magic again.
We're about half a second faster already than Max Verstappen's pole time of last year. The man who led the Qatar Grand Prix last week from start to finish. First time he's done that since the Bahrain Grand Prix of the opening race of the season. Verstappen with a time on the board then, and behind him Charles Leclerc and George Russell just outside of his first sector time. Nico Hülkenberg with a 10th further back along with his teammate Kevin Magnussen.
And Russell will be relieved, I think slightly lucky to get away with no further investigation for the block in the first, or the non-block as it turns out, in the first part of qualifying.
Lando Norris now goes fastest through the first sector. Carlos Sainz almost matching him in the Ferrari. 10 minutes to go. These are the first flying laps of this second part of qualifying. And for George Russell, the target is clear this weekend. Can he get 3 poles in a row and make it 3 poles in a row for Mercedes-Benz for the first time since Brazil, Qatar and Saudi in 2021. Goes second fastest, long way back, yeah.
8 tenths behind, wow. And Magnussen half second slower than he was in Q1.
Might have been used soft tyres for George Russell, though that could explain an 0.8 of a second difference. That's about the margin of new to old. Hülkenberg and Magnussen now have George Russell in the middle. Well, Charles Leclerc pops into that sandwich filling. As round the final corner comes Carlos Sainz. He's next across the line and goes second fastest. Little closer to Max Verstappen, but not by much. Lando Norris, meanwhile, in his McLaren, the weekend when McLaren can become Constructors' champions, 10th off Max Verstappen. So that's new tyres against new tyres. Verstappen heads Norris.
Yeah, but they use tyres on Lando Norris, so that's the kind of, that's the kind of pace we've been expecting. There's a bit of a handful of opposite lock, wasn't it?
Yeah. He's save of the day so far for Charles Leclerc.
Oh, wow, I don't know how he kept that out of the barrier.
into turn 14.
He certainly did.
Wasn't getting much grip at the front end of his car there, Charles Leclerc, and that, I know it looks like a tight corner, Martin, but it's you're still approaching that 105 miles an hour.
Yeah, so Norris giving Piastri a nice slipstream down the back straight. Yeah, I mean, we used to see a lot of cars in that barrier, but they opened it up a little bit, didn't they, for the changes here in 2021. So we've yet to see a car planted in there in any of the formulae, but that was a close call for Charles Leclerc.
DRS for Oscar Piastri, giving him that extra boost towards the end of the back straight, and his middle time of a 36.0 was about 3/10 shy of Max Verstappen.
You used tyres as well for Piastri, of course. When we say used, they've done 3 laps, but they still won't give you the same grip.
I think McLaren running a bit more downforce here than Red Bull. So on the straights, I think Red Bull have the advantage. Through the corners, McLaren have the advantage where you need that downforce the most. 0.7 of a second off the pace, Oscar Piastri, as he crosses the line. But new tyres for Max Verstappen and old tyres for Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. When we say old, of course, used for about 3 laps.
Yeah. So, of course, Verstappen saved a set, didn't he, in Q1, which will come in handy unless McLaren can sneak through on lesser tyres.
Bottom 5, Pierre Gasly and Valtteri Bottas, Kevin Magnussen, Lance Stroll, Fernando Alonso. See how this all stacks up when they all have the new tyres on. Fernando Alonso just nearly 0.08 of a second behind Charles Leclerc, who lost time when he was heading towards the barrier and had to recover. Charles Leclerc, who leads his teammate Carlos Sainz 14.8 in the qualifying head-to-head and confirms his record of having out-qualified his teammate in every single season that he's competed in Formula One. And had a special day yesterday, not the 10th-place grid penalty, but when he was out on the same track. For the same team as his brother Arthur, driving in FP1. And it has been a very close spread between the drivers. Looks a bit hot there under the visor for Valtteri Bottas. Thought it was quite a cooler evening tonight here in Abu Dhabi, but he's certainly got a sweat on there.
Yeah, he's in 3 layers of clothing and gloves and boots and crash helmet, balaclava, all the things you don't need to be wearing when it's still 26 degrees out there. Humidity only 68%, so not too bad, but it's a pretty physical track. And of course the designers don't really want a whole lot of air going through the cockpit if they can help it.
Sure, I saw a shot there of Aluni Bravi, Alessandro Aluni Bravi, the advisor, kind of team principal role without the name for Sauber. This will be his last race with the team. Jonathan Wheatley, the sporting director at Red Bull, takes over as team principal, working under the CEO Mattia Binotto, former team principal at Ferrari, for next season. That's Sergio Perez keeping as far away as he could from the corner. Carlos Sainz maybe thinking that Perez shouldn't have been there.
I think the stewards will agree with that.
No love lost, is there? The drivers use the team radio all the time just to try to attract the stewards' attention and get something changed, or get someone investigated if they can.
It looks like Max has given up on that session, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, he's a 122.9. I think he's safe.
Yeah, we'll save some tyres for tomorrow. Ted, what can you tell us?
I love it when they do that. Go out the back, get a deck chair, get a mocktail, Max, put your feet up until Q3. But, I mean, there'd have to be some amazing track improvement for him to be in danger. But, yeah, he has gone out. So everybody is doing despite being warned by everybody blocking the pit exit and not being able to overtake each other getting out the pit lane, they're doing exactly the same thing again, Crofty. They've all gone out at the same time and now are just sitting there at the end of the pit lane. Just quick shout out for Yuki Tsunoda, great lap from him. Finally, the RB has shown some pace with an upgrade this weekend, a new front wing on that RB for Yuki and for Liam.
who has out-qualified Liam Lawson in every single one of their 5 previous qualifying sessions together as teammates. And you might ask yourself, why are they queuing up at the end of the pit lane? They're trying to delay their starts and delay their entrance to the track to let the car in front get ahead to the extent where they're not going to be upset by any of the turbulence coming off the back of that car in front.
Yeah, ideally here you want to be 5-7 seconds behind the driver in front in some of these fast corners. So McLaren have ended up at the back of that queue minus Valtteri Bottas by the looks of it. But also, and the hot running pressure here is 26 front, 23.5 rear. They're high,
yeah.
So they can lose a little bit of that. Prepare the surface and the carcass of the tyre, get the brakes where they want them on this outlap, and then go for it.
This is Charles Leclerc then coming out of his garage, and then he suddenly sees a queue in front of him, and Liam Lawson trying to get in the RB. He'd come out beyond the first white line, but had stopped at least, and wasn't looking like he was going to try and nick a spot in the queue there. Oh,
yeah,
dear.
it all feels a bit like the classroom, doesn't it? Please, sir.
Since when? Bahrain GP? It's felt a little bit like that. Sometimes it does. Little telltales that we get. Right, Kevin Magnussen might not get much chance to do this again, Martin. So take us through a lap with the Viking.
Yeah, well, you can see how low the car is to the ground. It's smoking coming down the hill. It's so close to the ground. Lovely late apex there, back end of the car, just moving around. He can feel that, so he knows how hard he can hit the throttle down the back straight. He'll like to slipstream from that Ferrari, really. This is where you lose a lane. You pick it up now, and he hits the brakes hard, moves back towards the right-hand side, which is a little bit strange, on the way in. And this is all right. And then you sort of hug this inside line for a while. You want to free the car up a little bit, and you've got a point on the outside you're looking for into the 180. The front will slide. You wait for that to finish, pick up the throttle, and a short shift there. And I wouldn't say it's sort of on board. It doesn't feel that incredible actually on this lap. I don't know how it looks on the sector times, but he was having to be quite patient on the throttle in turn 9.
Dropping 4/10 to his teammate Nico Hülkenberg in terms of the times. Kevin Magnussen, who's had half of his points finishes and all of his Q3 appearances in the last 4 races, and that is not going to get him into Q3. Only 11th fastest. He's missing out by a little bit at the moment, but it might as well be a mile as his teammate goes 2nd fastest. Wow. That was a missed opportunity maybe for Kevin Magnussen.
Just didn't feel right on board though, did it?
It really didn't. Pierre Gasly is improving. George Russell has had a decent middle sector as well. Gasly crosses the line, goes 3rd fastest. I said he was improving. He's improved rather a lot there, and you can see with these times, Hülkenberg and Gasly, why Lando Norris has had to go out. He was 2nd fastest. George Russell goes 6th fastest. Next across the line, Sergio Perez behind him. Lance Stroll is improving. Fernando Alonso is also improving in the Aston Martins. Lance Stroll, who in the past here in Abu Dhabi has only got in the Q3 once, and that was 8th on the grid in 2020. But there's green sector times popping up all over the place. Verstappen will be safe, but Lando Norris might need to put in at least a couple of sectors at full pace here. Checker flag is out. Stroll crosses the line, goes 10th fastest. So he's knocked Liam Lawson into the bottom 5. Charles Leclerc is in that bottom 5, but he's improving enough as Fernando Alonso goes 6th fastest, knocks his teammate out of qualifying, puts Carlos Sainz, who's just set the fastest middle sector, the driver at risk zone. Magnussen won't get another lap in. Bottas has improved in the 1st sector. Leclerc crosses the line, goes quickest overall. So Carlos Sainz has got it all to do now in the final sector.
Leclerc deleted. Leclerc lap 22.980 deleted for Leclerc. Track limits turn 1.
That is disastrous for Charles Leclerc as Carlos Sainz goes quickest. Leclerc with a 10-place grid penalty. That means he's going to be bumped out of the top 10. He's going to start last in this race tomorrow, in a race Ferrari need to overhaul McLaren by 21 points in that championship battle for the Constructors' title. Liam Lawson is in the bottom 5 currently, as is Valtteri Bottas. Lawson stays in that bottom 5. Bottas, though, might have the pace here to knock Yuki Tsunoda out of qualifying and put a Sauber into Q3. Not since China has Bottas been in Q3. Crosses the line, he's done it now. Well done, Valtteri Bottas. Last race of the season. What's next? Q3, Valtteri.
Exactly, going to say the same thing. So Leclerc, 14th, then you're right. He'll go right to the back of the grid, minus whatever happens to Williams, of course, with their grid drop for gearboxes.
And lap was deleted.
Oh, freaking way. So turn 1?
Yeah, turn 1.
And he knew, didn't he?
It was turn 1 for Charles Leclerc. They'll open up the grid, they'll apply the penalties, but this could be plumb last for Charles Leclerc. And let's have a look, how far over the line. That
you can never tell from there. But
no, but it looked more than Sergio Perez, that's for sure.
Here we go.
Yeah, there's a bit of blue.
Yeah.
Between tyre and white line.
Less arguable than Perez's one, isn't it?
Oh dear. Not good news then for Ferrari or for Charles Leclerc, who is out of qualifying. Kevin Magnussen rather missed his chance for Q3. Lance Stroll.
That's as fast as she goes.
Well, let's see what happens in Q3, Valtteri. You've got another chance. Lance Stroll also out. Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda both out for RB.
Yes, good morning everyone. 1 hour of 3:53 coming up by
Poor old Charles Leclerc, just what he didn't need. That exit of turn 1, just biting him there, and we'll just pause it and have a look. And this one, I think, is different. Crofty was right. You can see the blue before the white line. And yeah, I think that's a slam dunk, really, isn't it? So a bit of an easier one for the stewards to look at than Perez. So I'm not surprised that he had that lap time deleted. So yeah, tough one for Leclerc. I think, again, it's one of those corners that could really benefit from having a bit of gravel just where his right rear tyre is. I don't know why they haven't done it here, but maybe something we can see next time we come here. What else we got? Gasly. in turn 5, he had a bit of a moment on his first run, and that's why the pressure was on him. He had a lock-up into this corner on his first run there, lost a lot of time, way too wide, and that's why he was bottom of the timesheets before that final run. But he put it together on that final run and got the best out of the car. And Magnussen as well, it's a strange one. I was expecting both Haas to get through into Q3, but he had this moment in turn 1 on his first run, and as Martin was pointing out during his second go at it, the car just didn't look hooked up. So there's turn 1 there was a sure sign that it maybe didn't have the same balance as his teammate. Hulkenberg had a much better run of things. And yeah, I think we can now go back to you, Crofty.
Thanks ever so much, Ant. If you weren't with us for Q1, the big headline was that Lewis Hamilton was knocked out after Kevin Magnussen knocked over the bollard, and Lewis Hamilton collected it and lost time in the final sector. Leclerc's misfortune and 10th-place penalty will promote Hamilton up the grid, but he starts in his worst spot ever here. He's talking now to Craig Slater.
Sorry about that, Lewis. We saw Magnussen knock the bollard off. It's just not a lot you could do about that, I guess.
No, just my luck, but it's okay. You know, we tried so hard with the setup. We got the car in a great place, and it was looking good in P3, so I was really thinking maybe a podium is possible this weekend. And yeah, then timing was not optimized for the session. I was the last one on the track, and obviously I ended up behind one of the Alpines right at the end, so I just ran out of time.
From the outside, we felt a tremendous warmth from you and the team around each other, and from the fans, you know, to witness this last race at the team. Have you felt that from the inside as well? And what do you think you can do tomorrow? Can you have a bit of fun coming through the field?
I mean, I tried to. I mean, as I said, the car's been feeling decent, yeah, to go from the P1, P2, I was always relatively in the top 5, to then being 18th, kind of like definitely changes the look into the weekend. But I'm still trying to be really present. I'm still really grateful. The team have been, you know, the car's been completely different this weekend, and it's been so much nicer to drive. And so my hopes are high, but it is what it is. I'll try and come back from that.
From Lewis Hamilton to Zach Brown on the McLaren pit wall. The green light is on, Zach. This is going to be tense here. You've got Max Verstappen very much in the equation, and it didn't look like that in practice.
No, but Andrea and I were just discussing. We're not surprised at all. And it looks like he's got a couple set of new tires, and the grid is covered by what, 3/4 tenths. So this could be a wild qualifying.
So to confirm then, Zach, you've got one new set for each of your drivers going into this Q3, yeah, in McLaren?
Yep, correct. I think Max might be the only one with 2 new sets, I think.
And we've seen you like looking so strong through the free practices, but it doesn't look anything like it's easy now in qualifying.
No, it's not. Well, I think we need 2 mega laps from our drivers. I think we've got a pole run in us, front row, but it looks like there's 3-4 cars that are in the same ballpark. Sainz, Max, and you know, we've got some there that are a little bit surprising but are very quick, so we need a good lap.
And any concerns, because you're carrying a lot of downforce, any concerns of raceability tomorrow?
No, we feel pretty good over the longer runs, so feel pretty good. But yeah, our sector 2's not what I'd like it to be.
Zach, thanks ever so much indeed, and best of luck to your 2 drivers and the other 8s then for this Q3 coming up. Nico Hulkenberg hasn't been on pole since Brazil in 2010. I just wonder tonight, what is in store for Nico Hulkenberg? He's out on the track, Martin. We saw a lap with his teammate. Let's see how he gets on with this.
Yeah, I think Hull would be a bit optimistic for him, but he's got plenty of margin there against the white line in turn 1. There's a nasty bump, but the cars are riding that well this year. Cascading down the hill now. You pick a braking point. That looks about 60 meters before the corner. Nice late apex. Had to make a correction in the middle. Correction on the exit. That burns a little bit of time now all the way down this straight. Somehow you never quite recover that speed as he gets ready for the second big stop of the lap. And that was at 100 meters this time. And he's gone way past the apex there. That makes him tight for turn 7. He'll be slow releasing off that. So another lap we've joined for Haas that's not going that well. It's not bad. It doesn't. The car looks more stable than it did when we were on board Kevin Magnussen. Front end again washing out a little bit, but he's got enough track to do something about that. He's done a 36.0 middle sector, about 3/10 shy. So it's looking okay for Hulkenberg, but not absolutely on rails, that's for sure. Really quick turn here, and 2 to go. Flat out through there. That's incredible that a Formula 1 car go flat out through there. Final corner, plenty of room to breathe on the exit. Now line comes up quickly. Hulkenberg with a 23.4. That's half-second shy of what he did, but it is on used tyres. Half-second shy of his best effort in Q2.
And Verstappen on those new soft tyres is absolutely flying here as George Russell crosses the line behind Nico Hulkenberg. Oscar Piastri goes quickest overall in the first sector. Middle sector, though, Verstappen's taken 3/10 out of the rest of the field. Might have a bit more life in his tyres, oh dear! And he's heading towards the wall, and a great save. He goes quickest, Max Verstappen, by half a second. Could have been even more.
He'll lose that, though, for track limit, surely.
Well, let's see the angle the car was at. Did he keep a tyre actually within the white line? Sainz goes second fastest behind Verstappen. Piastri, as I mentioned, these are unused soft tyres. Quickest in the first sector, dropped that 3/10 to Max during the middle sector. His teammate Lando Norris matches him in that middle sector. Alonso now goes fourth fastest and ahead of Sergio Perez as Gasly crosses the line and goes P4 in the Alpine. Next across the line, Oscar Piastri, he stays within track limits, goes second fastest.
That's a good time on used tyres from Oscar Piastri.
Isn't it just? But that's going to be deleted.
Yes.
So he's gone over the line at turn 1.
Wow.
Drivers are suffering tonight with these track limits. Norris goes second fastest, 4/1000th of a second between himself and Max Verstappen. The two drivers with the most poles between them in 2024 share the front row currently.
And no news. I'd like to see that again, but in the instant we saw it, it looked to me as if Max Verstappen went really wide through the last corner. Let's take a look at it, see if he, well, we won't see it from this
Well, he
angle.
definitely did with his rear tyres. Watch the front right.
No, you're right. He kept his right front on the track, didn't he? The back end was way off. That's what I was reading. But yes, he just keeps one tyre on the racetrack, and he somehow keeps it out of the pit wall. The time stands.
That was a moment and a bit. A moment and a lot for Max Verstappen. Crosses the line, lost time, but he's got Lando Norris on the used tyres, just 4/1000ths of a second behind him. This is definitely not an easy pole for Max Verstappen on the basis of what we've just seen. Verstappen going for 5 poles in a row here in Abu Dhabi to match the most he's ever got at any track, which is the Red Bull Ring in Austria.
Yeah, so Oscar Piastri now has put himself under pressure for the last run. He needs a traffic-free and error-free run now to deliver the time, and we're about to see why he lost that. Ooh, it was not as clear-cut as Leclerc.
That's Perez territory, isn't it?
Yeah, it was right in Perez territory. McLaren might well be contesting that one as well.
I would say if Sergio Perez appealed, or Red Bull appealed successfully, that would get overturned, that track limits as well, because that looks a little bit more to the left and on the line than Sergio Perez did.
Do you think so?
Yeah. But it
looked very similar. I thought it was sort of Perez plus, but it wasn't as far off as Leclerc would be. But you need to freeze frame it. It's so hard without freeze framing it.
Ted, down to you.
Oh, pressure, Crofty. Pressure, Martin. Pressure. They're all feeling it down here. Oscar Piastri, whether they'll have to get on with it to do the Perez defense to try and get his lap back. But at the moment, it's not. But there's pressure on him. Pressure on George Russell, who felt that he was out too early and has told his team, let's not go out too early. Pressure on that man, Carlos Sainz, as well, to support the Ferrari effort. And on Max Verstappen, who apparently on the radio said, Crofty, where did that come from? He felt he just exited, not with a boot full of throttle, exited that corner in a normal way, and the car almost spat him into the pit wall. So close. What a great save.
It certainly was. Right, we'll have a look at Oscar Piastri again. Zach Brown, tell us about the conversations on the McLaren pit wall. Do you think this was over or within?
We're reviewing it right now, and have just asked for it to be reviewed because it looks very, very, very close.
Oh, guess what, Zach? Good news for you. It's going to be reinstated.
Yep.
Yeah,
Happy with that.
That's
I thought you might be.
You were right, Crofty. That is the same as exactly the same, isn't it, as Checo Perez, that one. Yeah, well, that's good news. Then that takes the pressure off. He can go out and just drive his normal hot lap then, Zach, for this final run.
Yep. I wouldn't say all the pressure is off, but a little bit of pressure is off. So, no, that's good. Now we got a final run here for everyone.
Thanks ever so much indeed, Zach. So Verstappen, Norris, Piastri, Sainz, the front two rows here, with Nico Hülkenberg back in fifth. But now they all go out on new tyres, shiny new tyres, and they'll try and get them up to the temperature that they work at the best and hook them up with the asphalt and with the car, and hope that for 3.2 miles they get all the grip that they need. Twice he's been on pole for a sprint race, Oscar Piastri. 5 times he's been on the front row for a Grand Prix. As yet, in this, his 46th race, he's yet to get a pole for a Grand Prix.
I think the key is for Piastri, he still does have a time on the board, which means that he doesn't have to drive this final lap with caution.
Yeah.
He can go for it in that respect.
Sergio Perez currently down in 8th fastest. He's navigated the first 17 seconds, and he's got through that first sector with the best time that he's had so far. DRS slammed shut and into that braking zone for turns 6 and 7. It's top speed on this track, which is around about 210 miles an hour with DRS into a very slow second gear 40-mile-an-hour corner. Previous poles belong to his teammate the last 4 years. How Sergio would love to be up there with him, but he's dropped back a little bit during that middle sector. He's got a lot to do from here.
He has. He can still attack, though. A couple of personal bests for Perez on his final set of new tyres, and carries a decent speed underneath the hotel bridge. And this is it. 2 corners to go, Sergio.
And this could be the last time we see Sergio Perez qualifying in a Formula One car. His future to be decided, and he goes 4th fastest. He improves with a 1:23.2. It's a 10th faster than his best time in Q2. And now he has to wait and see what the others behind him do. Hülkenberg and Bottas matching each other through the first sector. Gasly is starting his flying lap, and we're on board with Oscar Piastri. And as round turn 1 he goes. That was cautious, Martin.
Plenty of white line there available for the stewards to not have to bother with. But this is it now. He's carrying extra downforce. We've talked about that, which means the car turns in nicely, but he's got to drag it then down the next 2 straights. Got to make the most of that in the 3rd sector when his tyres should be in a little bit better shape. And the drag doesn't matter anywhere near as much.
And the way this is all going to shape up, Max Verstappen will be the last to cross the line to start his flying lap. The pole sitter, the provisional pole sitter, will leave it until the last. Bottas goes 4th fastest ahead once again of Sergio Perez. Lando Norris through the first sector is inside the time he needed to be the best. Hülkenberg, great middle sector for him as he crosses the line. He goes quickest.
What?
Nico Hülkenberg is on provisional pole. I'm glad I looked at the stats. Brazil 2010, last time he was on pole position. A lot could change between now and the end of this, though. Norris is going well. Gasly P4 as he crosses the line. That Haas is sitting pretty as Oscar Piastri next across the line. He goes pole by 8/1,000 of a second. So Hülkenberg's time on pole was very short-lived, but he's still on the front row. What about Carlos Sainz? Ferrari need him. His teammate, 10th place penalty, qualified only 14th. He's languishing down the bottom. Ferrari need a lap and a half in his last qualifying lap for the team from Carlos Sainz as Alonso goes 6th fastest. That wasn't the best from Carlos Sainz, but he goes on to the front row. And it is so tight out in front, 2/100 of a second. As Norris now goes quickest, puts 2/10 between himself and his teammate. That's 8 poles for the season for Lando Norris, if he can hold on. 2 more to go. George Russell, back-to-back poles for the first time in his career. Can he make it 3? No, he can't. He's half a second down. Can it be 5 poles in Abu Dhabi in a row for Max Verstappen? As he comes out of the final corner, crosses the line, doesn't improve, starts 5th instead. It's McLaren. The weekend they could become Constructors' champions for the first time since '98. They have locked out the front row. Norris and Piastri, pole and second.
Tremendous. That's just what McLaren need.
Oh, yeah.
They want to win this in style if they can. There's a long way to go yet, but what performances from Nico Hülkenberg, Pierre Gasly, Valtteri Bottas. Where's that been all season? For 2 seasons, indeed, for him. Up into the top 10 shootout. Good effort, but yeah, extraordinary. What an extraordinary Q3 that was. And Max obviously threw everything at that first lap, didn't he? Yeah. Kept it on the track, kept the lap time as well, just about. But in fact, went 4 thousandths faster on that final run, but it wasn't enough. Starts P4.
Bemoaning a lack of balance, Max Verstappen in his car. Carlos Sainz, the lead Ferrari, will start 3rd for tomorrow's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Lando Norris takes an 8th pole of the season and level with Max Verstappen in terms of the most poles for this season. And Lando Norris, the most poles by a McLaren driver in the 21st century.
What a mate, that's pole. Yeah, beautiful job. Well done, guys. 1-2, well done. Yeah, good effort, very strong.
Yeah, McLaren sort of slightly made hard work of this session, but they were there when it mattered.
Now, as Lando Norris pulls into P1, let's just take a moment to say Nico Hülkenberg, that was a very timely lap in that battle for 6th in the Constructors' Championship. 6 points between Alpine, who are in 6th, and Haas, who are in 7th, and Hülkenberg is ahead of Gasly. Another fine lap from Pierre Gasly, but Haas needed that from Hülkenberg tonight.
Yeah, and where were Mercedes on the night as well? Top man Russell, we know Lewis had some specific problems down there, but 7. Take their penalties, but Mercedes didn't have qualifying pace tonight. We'll see how it works out on the longer runs tomorrow.
The 11 race run of poles at this track by Red Bull and Mercedes has ended. McLaren with a 3rd front row lockout of the season to add to Hungary and to Monza. It is Norris and Piastri, who now has 6 career front row starts but is yet to take pole for a Grand Prix. And just to add to the McLaren celebrations, don't forget the last 9 consecutive races here, all won by pole position. It's the longest current streak at any F1 track, one short of the all-time record actually, which is Barcelona from 2001 to 2010.
Yeah, I mean, McLaren will be a little bit vulnerable on the straights, carrying that downforce, but their tyres will stay with them longer through the Grand Prix, certainly through each lap. So they're sitting pretty, they've looked strong all through the event, and they've got a Ferrari down towards the back as well. They're one of their main rivals for the Constructors' Championship.
You watch this man try and get some overtaking done from P4 tomorrow, because they've got speed on the straights at Haas.
Yeah.
This could be quite the race tomorrow night.
I mean, he's just...
It's Lando's mum and dad there, trying to attract his attention to say well done.
Hülkenberg's 8 thousandths off the front row of the grid.
Yeah, incredible. And Lando finally hears
so 800ths.
Yeah. 800ths
yep.
For Hülkenberg. Good lap from Carlos Sainz. Got him into contention. Family celebrations for the Norrises.
He'll want to make up for what happened obviously in Qatar with the penalty, the yellow flag. That was a brutal penalty. With some mitigating circumstances, but the rules are the rules, I guess. But that hit them hard, didn't it?
Certainly did. They recovered to get back into the points and made that fastest lap, of course. But sadly, we were robbed as viewers, Martin, of a brilliant finish between Max and Lando. James Hinchcliffe is down in Parc Fermé, and he has Lando Norris in front of him.
And your pole sitter for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, Lando Norris, an incredible lap out there, and really a best-case scenario for the Constructors' battle. McLaren won too. Just talk us through the run for you.
I didn't hear a thing you said, but thanks. Yeah, a perfect day for us. Probably a little bit tougher than we were hoping for. You know, we've been very quick all weekend, so we're pleased with the 1-2, but it was just a bit trickier than what we would have liked. But my lap in the end was strong, and yeah, just how we wanted to end today.
Now, you go into the race, obviously, with a pretty healthy lead in the Constructors' battle. Ferrari not having as good a day as they would have hoped. But when you go into the race, is it about finishing 1-2, trying to go for that ultimate result, or is it more about covering off Ferrari just to make sure they don't have some risky strategy that benefits from a safety car?
I mean, we got to beat Ferrari. That's the name. But we want to do it in style, and we want to win. I want to win, you know. So we know what we have to do. We're keeping our heads down. We're staying focused. But you know, we're here to win every race possible. And tomorrow we're going to have a good chance, at least with one of our cars, and we'll be giving it everything we got. But knowing in the back of our minds what we really have to do to achieve our big goals. So very happy. The team have done an incredible job. So a big thanks to them. And yeah, always a nice qualifying to end the year.
All right, well, 8th pole on the season, 9th of your career. Congratulations, best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Oscar P2 on the day, so close to that first pole position, but another front row start and a dream start for the McLaren team. Just condition we saw yesterday, a bit cooler, a bit windier. How tricky was it out there?
Yeah, it was a bit trickier today compared to last night, and yeah, I think we took a while to find our feet in qualifying, but we got there in the end, and yeah, great result for the team, so happy with that. Last lap, yep, I wish I probably could have had it again, but that's okay. P2 is still a good spot, and yeah, obviously for the team, you know, first and second is the dream at the moment, so let's keep it going for tomorrow.
You had that little situation there with the track limits where the lap was taken away, then it was reinstated. What's that conversation like between you and the engineer during that time where you're not sure if you get to keep the lap or not?
I mean, I didn't say much at the time, but I thought it was, if it was out, it wasn't by much, and clearly it was in by not much. So yeah, I just kept my head down and knew I had to try and do a good final lap. You know, my last lap was quicker anyway, but just not quite quick enough. So no, it was a bit of a tense moment, but it was a little bit reassuring knowing that I at least had that lap, but you know, I knew I had to try and find a bit more anyway.
Lockout of the front row, obviously great for the team, but how important is it in the last race of the season to end with a strong result to carry that momentum into the winter?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we'll do whatever we can to make sure we win the championship, and that's by far the biggest goal tomorrow. You know, I'm sure we'd both love to win the race, but I'm sure everyone would love to win the championship even more. So we'll make sure that happens and have some fun tomorrow.
All right, best of luck. Congratulations, P2 Oscar Piastri. And lining up P3 for tomorrow's race, Carlos Sainz. Came into the weekend, McLaren looked like they had a decent amount of pace. You must be really proud to be just behind them in P3.
Yeah, I think we've made some good progress through the weekend. I think McLaren have showed all weekend that they are a bit of a step ahead compared to everyone, really, and we were just there behind 2-3 tenths off. When it came to Q1 and Q2, it looked like we were getting a bit closer. I put together some really good laps in Q1 and Q2, but then in Q3, when they put everything together, they still had this little advantage over us. Anyway, still a race to do tomorrow, and we will give it everything to see if we can win that race and give ourselves the best chance.
Yeah, Constructors' battle might be a tough ask for sure, but for you, heading into your last race with Ferrari, starting up on the second row there, how much would it mean to you to be able to sign off this chapter of your career with a win?
Well, I'm gonna give it everything, you know. Already today, I was pushing in qualifying like never before, you know, because I wanted the pole position and I wanted to give myself a good chance for tomorrow, as it might be my last battle for a win or for a podium in a while, but at the same time, yeah, enjoying as much as possible this last weekend, pushing flat out, and tomorrow nothing to lose, so we will go for it.
And just finally, some of the emotions heading into that last race, like you say, it's so important to end it on a high note. Is it tough to control the emotion and just focus on the job at hand?
If I'm very honest with you, I have not been very emotional this weekend, just because the level of focus is so high, and there's so much at stake with the opportunity to win and to fight for the constructors that I don't really get any time to really think about it and let it sink in. I'm pretty sure tomorrow before the race or after the race it will start to hit, but at the same time, yeah, I'm just gonna make the most out of it, keep enjoying these last few races like I've been doing up until now, driving well, and enjoy it.
All right, well, great effort today. Best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Carlos Sainz.